These were the shinobi, the ninja, masters of stealth and deception, who moved through darkness as naturally as fish through water. Their story spans over 1,000 years of Japanese history, weaving through emperors and shoguns, through war and peace, leaving traces that still captivate our imagination today. The story of the ninja doesn't begin with black-clad figures scaling castle walls or throwing shuriken through the night air. Instead, it starts much earlier, in the mists of ancient Japan, where the foundations of what would become ninjutsu were being laid by people who had no idea they were creating one of history's most enigmatic warrior traditions. Long before Japan had a name for these shadow warriors, the mountainous terrain of the Japanese archipelago harboured communities that lived apart from mainstream society. These early inhabitants of remote mountain regions developed unique skills simply to survive in their harsh environment. They learned to move silently through dense forests to hunt game, to read weather patterns and natural signs, to use plants for medicine and poison, and to navigate treacherous mountain paths in complete darkness. These survival skills would later form the practical foundation of ninja techniques. During the 6th and 7th centuries, as Buddhism and Taoism arrived from China and Korea, they brought with them not just religious philosophy, but also knowledge of strategy, medicine, and what some called mystical arts. The Yamabushi, or mountain ascetics, emerged during this period as religious practitioners who sought enlightenment through extreme physical training in mountain wilderness. These warrior monks practiced shugendo, a syncretic religion that combined elements of Buddhism, Shinto, Taoism, and ancient Japanese mountain worship. The Yamabushi developed extraordinary physical abilities through their austere training. They would walk on hot coals to demonstrate mind over matter, sit under freezing waterfalls in winter meditation, and traverse seemingly impossible mountain routes while carrying heavy loads. They learned to fast for extended periods, to find sustenance from forest plants, and to use natural materials for shelter and tools. Many historians believe these Yamabushi were among the direct predecessors of the ninja, as their practices included not just spiritual development, but also practical survival and combat skills. As Japan's imperial court established itself in Nara and later Heian-kyo, which we now know as Kyoto, the need for intelligence gathering and covert operations grew. The aristocratic families engaged in constant political manoeuvring, and information became as valuable as gold. Some of the earliest references to espionage activities in Japan come from this period. Though the practitioners weren't yet called ninja, the term used was often shinobi, meaning to steal away or to hide. And these early spies were typically servants, merchants, or entertainers who could move freely through different social circles without arousing suspicion. The geography of Japan played a crucial role in the development of ninja culture. The provinces of Iga and Kōga, located in present-day Mie and Shiga prefectures, were particularly important. These regions were mountainous and relatively isolated, situated between the major power centres of Kyoto and the eastern provinces. The terrain was perfect for those who wished to remain independent from central authority. The valleys were fertile enough to support small communities, but the surrounding mountains provided natural fortification and countless hiding places. The families living in these regions developed a unique social structure. Unlike the rigid hierarchical system that dominated most of Japan, the communities in Iga and Kōga operated on a more egalitarian basis. Decisions were often made collectively, and leadership was based on skill and merit rather than hereditary privilege. This democratic approach was unusual in feudal Japan and contributed to the independent spirit that characterized these regions. These communities also developed sophisticated information networks. Travelers passing through the mountain passes would be carefully observed, and information about troop movements, political developments, and economic conditions would be collected and analysed. This intelligence gathering wasn't initially for mercenary purposes, but rather for the survival of the communities themselves. They needed to know about potential threats and opportunities to maintain their independence. The religious and philosophical foundations of what would become ninjutsu were diverse and syncretic. From Buddhism came concepts of impermanence and the illusory nature of reality, ideas that would later influence ninja tactics of deception and misdirection. Taoism contributed understanding of natural harmony, the principle of wu wei, or effortless action, and knowledge of internal energy cultivation. Shinto, Japan's indigenous religion, provided deep connection to the natural world and the concept of kami, the spirits that inhabit all things. The Chinese military classics, particularly Sun Tzu's Art of War, also influenced early ninja philosophy. The emphasis on winning without fighting, the importance of intelligence and deception, and the principle that all warfare is based on deception resonated strongly with the developing shinobi tradition. These texts were studied not just by samurai generals, but also by the scholarly families in Iga and Kōga, who were developing their own military traditions. During the Heian period, from 794 to 1185, Japan experienced a golden age of culture and refinement at court. But this was also a time of growing military power among provincial clans. The imperial government's control over distant provinces weakened, and local strongmen began to assert their independence. This decentralization of power created opportunities for those skilled in unconventional warfare and intelligence gathering. The concept of onmyodo, a system of natural science, astronomy, almanac, divination, and magic that developed independently in Japan based on Chinese philosophies, also influenced early ninja development. Onmyoji, the court practitioners of onmyodo, were consulted for everything from determining auspicious datos to protecting against evil spirits. Some of the more esoteric ninja practices, including the use of mystical hand signs called kuji-in, have their roots in onmyodo traditions. As the Heian period progressed, the distinction between legitimate and illegitimate warfare began to blur. The aristocratic warriors, who would later be called samurai, initially fought according to elaborate codes of honor, but practical necessity often required more pragmatic approaches. Night raids, ambushes, and the use of specialized troops for reconnaissance became increasingly common. The seeds of ninjutsu were being sown in this fertile ground of military innovation and necessity. The late Heian period saw the rise of powerful military clans like the Taira and Minamoto. These clans maintained their own intelligence networks and employed various agents for espionage and sabotage. While not yet called ninja, these agents performed many of the functions that would later be associated with shinobi warriors. They gathered information about enemy movements, spread disinformation to confuse opponents, and sometimes carried out assassinations or acts of arson. The role of women in early espionage activities shouldn't be overlooked. Court ladies had access to private conversations and intimate knowledge of political plans. Some were undoubtedly used as informants, willingly or otherwise. Female entertainers, particularly those who travelled between different courts and castles, were ideally positioned to gather intelligence. These early female agents were predecessors to the kunoichi, the female ninja who would play important roles in later periods. The economic foundations of ninja communities were also being established during this time. The mountainous regions of Iga and Kōga weren't suitable for large-scale rice cultivation, which was the basis of wealth in most of Japan. Instead, these communities developed diverse economies based on forestry, small-scale farming, craft production, and increasingly the provision of specialized military services. They manufactured and traded in medicines, poisons, and specialized tools. Their knowledge of metallurgy, acquired partly through connections with the religious communities that cast temple bells and ritual implements, would later be applied to creating ninja weapons and tools. The transmission of knowledge in these early communities was primarily oral and practical. Skills were passed from parent to child, master to apprentice, through direct demonstration and years of practice. Written records were rare and often deliberately cryptic, using codes and metaphors that would be meaningless to outsiders. This secretive approach to knowledge preservation would become a hallmark of ninja tradition, making it difficult for historians to trace the exact development of specific techniques and practices. The social position of these early proto-ninja was complex and ambiguous. They weren't part of the aristocratic warrior class that would become the samurai, nor were they simple peasants. They occupied a liminal space in Japanese society, which gave them both freedom and vulnerability. This marginalized position would remain characteristic of ninja throughout their history, allowing them to move between different social worlds but never fully belonging to any of them. As the Heian period deepened into its middle years, Japan witnessed a fascinating transformation in the nature of conflict and intelligence gathering. The imperial court at Heian-kyo had become a world unto itself, where political intrigue played out through poetry competitions and romantic liaisons as much as through formal governmental channels. Yet beneath this refined surface, a more shadowy world was developing, one where information was power, and those who could obtain it secretly were becoming increasingly valuable. The Fujiwara clan, which dominated court politics through strategic marriages to the imperial family, understood the value of intelligence networks. They maintained extensive connections throughout the provinces, using Buddhist temples and Shinto shrines as nodes in their information-gathering system. Monks and priests, who could travel freely under religious pretexts, often carried more than just spiritual messages. They observed local conditions, noted military preparations, and reported back to their patrons in the capital. During this period, the practice of using shinobi no mono, literally hidden people, became more systematized. These weren't yet the ninja of later centuries, but they performed similar functions. They might pose as travelling merchants to observe castle defences, as wandering monks to gather gossip in market towns, or as entertainers to gain access to warrior gatherings. The skills required for such work included not just stealth and observation, but also acting ability, quick thinking, and extensive knowledge of different social customs and dialects. The development of written Japanese, particularly the hiragana script that emerged during the Heian period, had unexpected implications for espionage. While Chinese characters remained the domain of male scholars and officials, hiragana was associated with women and private communication. This created opportunities for coded messages that could be hidden within seemingly innocent love poems or personal letters. Some historians suggest that certain classical works of Japanese literature contain hidden political intelligence, though proving such claims remains difficult. The breakdown of central authority that characterized the late Heian period created ideal conditions for the development of specialized warrior communities. As provincial governors became increasingly independent and local strongmen carved out their own territories, the demand for military specialists grew. The communities in Iga and Kōga found themselves strategically positioned to provide services to multiple competing factions without becoming permanently allied to any single power. These communities developed sophisticated training methods that went far beyond simple combat techniques. Children growing up in these traditions learned to control their breathing, to remain silent for extended periods, to move through darkness by feeling subtle changes in air currents, and to judge distances by sound. They studied the behavior of animals, learning to mimic bird calls for communication and to move with the fluid grace of forest creatures. This training began in early childhood and continued throughout life, creating warriors whose abilities seemed almost supernatural to outsiders. The psychological aspects of early ninja training were equally important. Students learned to control fear and suppress emotional reactions that might give them away. They practiced maintaining false identities for extended periods, developing the mental discipline to stay in character even under stress. Meditation techniques borrowed from Buddhist practice helped them maintain focus during long periods of hiding or observation. The ability to endure discomfort silently, whether from cold, hunger, or painful positions, was considered essential. The religious and philosophical education of these early specialists was remarkably sophisticated. They studied not just for spiritual development, but for practical applications. Knowledge of Buddhist sutras allowed them to pose convincingly as monks. Understanding of Shinto rituals enabled them to blend in at religious festivals. Familiarity with Confucian classics meant they could converse with educated samurai without arousing suspicion. This broad education distinguished the emerging ninja tradition from simple banditry or common espionage. The role of nature in ninja development cannot be overstated. The forests and mountains weren't just hiding places, but teachers. Practitioners learned to read weather signs to predict visibility conditions for night operations. They studied animal behavior to understand when their movements might disturb wildlife and give away their position. Plants were catalogued not just for their medicinal or toxic properties, but for their use in creating smoke screens, tracking powders, or temporary shelters. Every element of the natural world was potential tool or teacher. The economic networks that supported these communities were complex and often hidden. On the surface, they might appear to be simple farming villages or religious communities. Beneath this facade, they manufactured specialized equipment, gathered and sold intelligence, and provided training to those who could pay. The income from these activities was carefully laundered through legitimate businesses, a practice that required sophisticated understanding of economics and accounting. The development of specialized tools and weapons accelerated during this period. While later popular culture would focus on exotic weapons like shuriken, the early ninja toolkit was primarily practical. They developed improved climbing equipment based on tools used by mountain ascetics. They created better methods for starting fires quickly and quietly, essential for both survival and sabotage. They refined techniques for creating and using poisons, learning to extract toxins from plants and animals, and to deliver them through food, drink, or contact with skin. The architecture of ninja communities reflected their unique needs. Houses were built with hidden compartments for storing weapons and documents. Secret passages connected buildings, allowing residents to move unseen. Training facilities were disguised as normal farm buildings or religious structures. Gardens were designed not just for beauty, but to provide cover for movement and materials for various ninja tools and preparations. This integration of defensive considerations into everyday life was characteristic of communities that could never fully relax their vigilance. The social structure within these communities was remarkably sophisticated. While maintaining an egalitarian ethos unusual for feudal Japan, they developed complex systems for sharing knowledge while maintaining operational security. Information was compartmentalized, with individuals knowing only what they needed for their specific roles. This cell structure, similar to modern intelligence organizations, protected the community from betrayal or infiltration. Women played increasingly important roles during this period, though their contributions were often unrecorded or deliberately obscured. Female members of ninja communities learned the same survival and combat skills as men, but also specialized in techniques that took advantage of social expectations. They could move more freely in certain contexts as female entertainers, servants, or religious pilgrims. They developed specialized techniques for concealing weapons in hair ornaments and clothing, and for using their perceived vulnerability as a tactical advantage. The relationship between ninja communities and established Buddhist temples was complex and multifaceted. Some temples, particularly those of the Tendai and Shingon sects, maintained their own warrior monks called Sohei. These warrior monks sometimes competed with ninja for similar types of missions, but also occasionally collaborated. The temples provided cover for ninja operations, while ninja sometimes protected temple interests or gathered intelligence for religious leaders who were deeply involved in political affairs. The transmission of medical knowledge was another crucial aspect of early ninja development. The ability to treat injuries without access to normal medical care was essential for operatives who might be wounded far from friendly territory. Ninja communities developed extensive knowledge of anatomy, both for healing and for understanding vulnerable points for attack. They created portable medical kits with herbs and tools for treating everything from sword wounds to broken bones. This medical knowledge was often more advanced than that available to common soldiers or even many samurai. The use of codes and ciphers became increasingly sophisticated during the late Heian period. Ninja communities developed multiple systems for encoding messages, some based on Chinese classical texts, others on Buddhist sutras, and still others on seemingly random patterns that only initiated members could decipher. They created methods for hiding messages in artwork, for encoding information in the arrangement of flowers, and for transmitting complex intelligence through seemingly innocent commercial transactions. The psychological warfare techniques that would later become associated with ninja were already being refined. They learned to spread rumors that would demoralize enemies or create dissension in their ranks. They studied the personal weaknesses and fears of potential targets, gathering information that could be used for blackmail or manipulation. They developed techniques for creating illusions that would make small forces appear larger or make enemies doubt their own perceptions. The transition from the Heian period to the Kamakura period marked a fundamental shift in Japanese society, one that would profoundly influence the development of the ninja tradition. As the elegant court culture gave way to military rule, the warriors who had once served as provincial muscle for aristocratic families seized power for themselves. The establishment of the Kamakura shogunate in 1185 created a new political reality where military might determine authority, and in this warrior-dominated world, the skills of the shinobi became increasingly valuable. The Genpei War, fought between the Taira and Minamoto clans from 1180 to 1185, demonstrated the importance of intelligence and unconventional warfare in determining the outcome of major conflicts. While samurai warriors engaged in formal battles with their elaborate armor and coded honor, the success or failure of campaigns often depended on less visible activities. Spies infiltrated enemy camps to learn battle plans, saboteurs destroyed supplies and weakened fortifications, and assassins targeted key commanders. Though the historical records written by and for the samurai class rarely acknowledge these contributions, careful reading reveals numerous instances where mysterious fires, unexplained deaths, or surprisingly accurate intelligence changed the course of battles. The Minamoto victory and establishment of the Kamakura shogunate created new opportunities for ninja communities. Minamoto no Yoritomo, the first shogun, was paranoid about potential threats to his rule, having eliminated many of his own family members to secure power. He understood that conventional military force alone couldn't maintain control over a country as geographically diverse and politically complex as Japan. Intelligence networks were essential, and the communities in Iga and Kōga that had developed specialized skills in this area found their services in high demand. During the Kamakura period, the distinction between different types of warriors became more pronounced. The samurai developed into a distinct social class, with elaborate codes of conduct, hereditary privileges, and formal military obligations. They fought in daylight, announced their names and lineages before combat, and at least in theory, adhered to strict rules of honourable warfare. The ninja, by contrast, operated outside these conventions. They fought in darkness, concealed their identities, and used whatever tactics would accomplish their missions. This fundamental difference in approach created both tension and complementarity between the two warrior traditions. The Mongol invasions of 1274 and 1281 provided unexpected catalyst for ninja development. The Mongols fought with tactics unfamiliar to Japanese warriors, using massed archery, explosive weapons, and coordinated group tactics rather than individual combat. The Japanese response required adaptation and innovation. Intelligence about Mongol preparations and movements became crucial, and the ability to conduct sabotage operations against the invasion fleet was valuable. Some historical accounts suggest that ninja operatives infiltrated Mongol camps in Kyushu, gathering intelligence and spreading disease among the invaders, though separating fact from later embellishment remains challenging. The religious institutions of the Kamakura period played complex roles in the development of ninja traditions. The new Zen Buddhism, introduced from China, emphasized direct experience and practical wisdom over theoretical knowledge. Its meditation techniques and philosophy of no mind influenced ninja mental training. Meanwhile, the older established Buddhist sects maintained their own military forces and intelligence networks. The warrior monks of Mount Hiei and other religious centers sometimes collaborated with and sometimes competed against secular ninja groups. The evolution of Japanese castle architecture during this period created new challenges and opportunities for infiltration specialists. Early Japanese fortifications were relatively simple wooden structures, but as warfare became more sophisticated, so did defensive architecture. Castles developed complex layouts with multiple defensive layers, hidden passages, and sophisticated alert systems. Ninja communities responded by developing new techniques for scaling walls, moving silently across nightingale floors designed to chirp when walked upon, and navigating complex castle layouts in complete darkness. The economic changes of the Kamakura period also influenced ninja development. The growth of commerce and currency-based transactions created new opportunities for intelligence gathering through merchant networks. Ninja operatives could pose as traders, moving freely between different domains while observing military preparations and political developments. The increasing importance of written records and documents made skills in forgery and code breaking more valuable. Some ninja became specialists in creating false documents or altering real ones to serve their employers' purposes. The social mobility possible through ninja activities attracted individuals from various backgrounds. While many ninja came from hereditary communities in Iga and Kōga, others were drawn from displaced samurai who had lost their positions, ambitious peasants seeking to improve their status, or even former criminals who found redemption and purpose in serving shadow warriors. This diversity enriched ninja traditions with different perspectives and skills, while also creating challenges in maintaining security and loyalty. Training methods became increasingly systematic during the Kamakura period. Children in ninja communities underwent rigorous physical conditioning from early ages. They practiced flexibility exercises that would allow them to hide in impossibly small spaces or escape from bonds. They developed extraordinary balance through walking on narrow beams and ropes. They learned to swim while bound, to hold their breath for extended periods and to tolerate extreme temperatures. This physical training was combined with mental conditioning that emphasized patience, observation, and emotional control. The development of specialized ninja weapons accelerated during this period. While popular culture often emphasizes exotic weapons, most ninja tools were adaptations of common items that wouldn't arouse suspicion if discovered. Farm implements were modified to serve as weapons. Climbing tools used by construction workers were refined for scaling castle walls. Even musical instruments could conceal blades or projectiles. The famous shuriken throwing stars existed in numerous varieties, some designed for distraction rather than lethality, others capable of delivering poison, and still others intended primarily as tools for cutting or prying. The art of disguise reached new levels of sophistication. Ninja didn't simply wear costumes, but developed complete alternate identities. They studied the mannerisms, speech patterns, and technical knowledge required for various roles. A ninja posing as a carpenter needed to actually know carpentry. One disguised as a merchant had to understand commerce and pricing. This requirement for genuine expertise in multiple fields made ninja training remarkably comprehensive, producing individuals who were not just warriors, but Renaissance figures capable of operating in many different contexts. The relationship between ninja and their employers was complex and often problematic. Unlike samurai, who ideally served a single lord with absolute loyalty, ninja were essentially mercenaries who might work for different employers over time. This created trust issues on both sides. Employers worried about ninja selling information to rivals or switching sides at crucial moments. Ninja worried about being eliminated after completing missions to prevent them from revealing sensitive information. Various systems developed to manage these concerns, including the use of intermediaries, hostage exchanges, and elaborate contracts with penalty clauses. The role of ninja in psychological warfare expanded significantly during this period. They became masters at creating fear and uncertainty among enemies. Strange sounds in the night, unexplained disappearances, and seemingly impossible infiltrations could demoralize entire garrisons. Ninja studied human psychology, learning to exploit common fears and superstitions. They might spread rumors of supernatural abilities or divine protection, making enemies hesitate to engage them. The psychological impact of ninja operations often exceeded their physical effects, as the fear of invisible enemies could paralyze decision-making and erode morale. Communication systems within ninja networks became increasingly sophisticated. They developed various methods for transmitting information across long distances quickly and secretly. Smoke signals, fire beacons, and drum codes allowed rapid communication across mountain valleys. Carrier pigeons were trained for message delivery. Human courier networks used relay systems similar to the official post roads, but operating in parallel and secret. These communication systems gave ninja organizations significant advantages in coordinating operations and sharing intelligence. The legal status of ninja remained ambiguous throughout the Kamakura period. They operated in legal grey areas, neither fully outlawed nor officially recognized. This ambiguity provided both opportunities and dangers. It allowed them to operate with some freedom, but also meant they had little legal protection if caught. The communities in Iga and Kōga developed their own internal legal systems and dispute resolution mechanisms, creating parallel structures of authority that existed alongside but separate from official government. The Sengoku period, stretching from the mid-15th to the late 16th century, represented the absolute zenith of ninja activity and influence in Japanese history. This age of warring states saw Japan fractured into dozens of competing domains, each ruled by ambitious daimyo warlords who fought constantly for territory and supremacy. In this chaotic environment where alliances shifted like sand and today's friend might be tomorrow's enemy, the services of skilled shinobi became not just valuable, but essential for survival. Every major warlord employed ninja in some capacity, and the communities of Iga and Kōga reached the peak of their power and independence. The political fragmentation that characterized the Sengoku period created perfect conditions for ninja operations. With no central authority to maintain order, warfare became constant and treachery commonplace. Traditional samurai codes of honor still existed in theory, but were increasingly ignored in practice. Surprise attacks, night raids, and assassination attempts became standard military tactics. In this environment, the ninjas' willingness to employ any means necessary to achieve their objectives transformed from a marginal practice into a mainstream military necessity. The province of Iga, located in present-day Mie Prefecture, developed into the most famous centre of ninja activity. Unlike most regions of Japan, which were controlled by single daimyo families, Iga was governed by a confederation of around 40 to 50 small ninja clans. These clans, including famous names like the Hattori, Momochi, and Fujibayashi, cooperated in a loose democratic federation called the Iga Sokoku Ikki. This unique political structure allowed them to maintain independence, while surrounding regions fell under the control of powerful warlords. The Iga Confederation operated on principles that were remarkably progressive for feudal Japan. Decisions were made through councils where each clan had representation. Leadership positions rotated among the major families. Resources and intelligence were shared for mutual benefit. This collaborative approach allowed the relatively small population of Iga to resist much larger forces and maintain their autonomy for decades. Their success inspired similar organizational structures in other ninja communities and demonstrated that alternative forms of governance were possible even in feudal society. The neighbouring province of Kōga, in present-day Shiga Prefecture, developed along similar lines, but with its own distinct characteristics. The Kōga ninja were organized into 53 families, who, like their Iga counterparts, governed themselves through a collaborative council system. The Kōga region's proximity to major transportation routes between Kyoto and the eastern provinces made it strategically valuable, and the ninja families there became skilled at playing different sides against each other while maintaining their independence. The relationship between Iga and Kōga was complex and often misunderstood. Popular culture often portrays them as bitter enemies, but historical evidence suggests a more nuanced relationship. While they certainly competed for contracts and occasionally found themselves on opposite sides of conflicts, they also shared techniques, intermarried, and sometimes collaborated on operations. Both communities understood that their mutual interest in preserving ninja traditions and independence outweighed temporary rivalries. The training systems in these ninja strongholds reached unprecedented levels of sophistication during the Sengoku period. Children born into ninja families began their education almost as soon as they could walk. Physical training included not just combat techniques, but also activities designed to develop specific attributes. They would practice walking on rice paper without tearing it to develop light footsteps. They learned to hang from tree branches for extended periods to build grip strength. They trained to dislocate their own joints to escape from bonds, a painful skill that required years of practice to master safely. The mental and psychological training was equally rigorous. Young ninja learned to compartmentalize their minds, maintaining multiple identities without confusion. They practiced emotional control through meditation and exposure to frightening or disturbing situations. They developed perfect recall for conversations and visual details, essential skills for intelligence gathering. They learned to lie convincingly, to resist interrogation, and to maintain cover stories even under extreme stress. This psychological conditioning produced operatives who could function effectively in situations that would break ordinary people. The economic importance of ninja services during the Sengoku period cannot be overstated. Major military campaigns could be won or lost based on intelligence, and the fees commanded by skilled ninja reflected their value. A single piece of crucial intelligence about enemy plans might be worth more than 100 samurai warriors. Successful ninja clans accumulated significant wealth, which they invested in training facilities, weapons development, and intelligence networks. Some historians estimate that at their peak, the combined ninja communities of Iga and Kōga controlled economic resources comparable to mid-sized daimyo domains. The technological innovations developed by ninja during this period were remarkable. They created sophisticated chemical compounds for various purposes, including smoke screens that could blind and disorient enemies, flash powders that produced blinding light, and incendiary mixtures for arson operations. They developed primitive but effective explosives using knowledge gained from Chinese sources and their own experimentation. They created specialized tools for every conceivable situation, from collapsible boats for river crossings to breathing tubes for hiding underwater. The information networks maintained by ninja organizations during the Sengoku period were extraordinarily extensive. They placed agents in castle towns throughout Japan, creating webs of informants who reported on everything from troop movements to economic conditions. These networks used merchants, entertainers, religious pilgrims, and craftsmen as cover identities. Information flowed through these networks with surprising speed, sometimes allowing ninja employers to learn about distant events before official messengers arrived. The role of kunoichi, female ninja, became particularly prominent during this period. Women could access spaces and situations closed to men, making them invaluable for certain types of operations. They might serve as maids in enemy castles, gathering intelligence through casual observation and overheard conversations. They could pose as entertainers or courtesans, using intimate relationships to extract information or influence decisions. Some kunoichi were trained as assassins, using their perceived harmlessness to get close to targets. The training of kunoichi was as rigorous as that of male ninja, though it emphasized different skills and techniques. The most famous ninja of this period emerged as legendary figures whose exploits, real and embellished, would inspire stories for centuries. Hattori Hanzō, who served Tokugawa Ieyasu, became the archetypal loyal ninja, using his skills to protect his lord and eventually help establish the Tokugawa shogunate. Fuma Kotaro, leader of the Fuma clan, served the Hojo family and became famous for his unusual height and tactical brilliance. Momochi Sandayu, one of the leaders of Iga, was renowned for maintaining 3 separate identities and families simultaneously, with none aware of the others. The major warlords of the period each had their own approaches to employing ninja. Oda Nobunaga, the brutal unifier who began the process of reunifying Japan, initially employed ninja but later turned against them, viewing independent ninja communities as threats to his authority. Toyotomi Hideyoshi, Nobunaga's successor, used ninja extensively in his campaigns, but also tried to control and regulate their activities. Tokugawa Ieyasu, the ultimate victor who established the last shogunate, maintained close relationships with certain ninja groups, particularly the Hattori clan, while suppressing others. The siege warfare that characterized many Sengoku period conflicts created particular opportunities for ninja expertise. Castle sieges could last months or even years, and the ability to infiltrate fortifications to gather intelligence, sabotage supplies, or assassinate commanders could break stalemates. Ninja developed specialized techniques for entering castles, including methods for swimming through moats, scaling walls silently, and navigating complex defensive systems. They learned to exploit human weaknesses, bribing guards, seducing servants, or exploiting personal rivalries within castle garrisons. The use of firearms, introduced to Japan by Portuguese traders in 1543, created new challenges and opportunities for ninja. While some traditionalists resisted these new weapons, pragmatic ninja quickly recognized their potential. They developed techniques for using early firearms in assassination attempts, learned to manufacture gunpowder, and created countermeasures against enemies using guns. The loud noise of early firearms actually provided advantages for ninja operations, as the sound could mask other activities or create distractions. The religious and philosophical dimensions of ninjutsu deepened during this period. Many ninja incorporated elements of Shugendo, Zen Buddhism, and esoteric Shinto practices into their training. They developed complex systems of kuji-in, mystical hand positions believed to focus spiritual energy. While modern historians debate the actual efficacy of these practices, they undoubtedly served important psychological functions, helping ninja maintain focus and confidence in dangerous situations. The spiritual training also provided philosophical frameworks for reconciling the moral contradictions inherent in their profession. The documentation of ninja techniques became more systematic during the Sengoku period, though still shrouded in secrecy. Various ninja clans compiled scrolls containing their accumulated knowledge, though these documents were often written in code or deliberately obscure language. The Bansen Shukai, compiled later but drawing on Sengoku period sources, provides our most comprehensive view of historical ninja techniques and philosophy. These documents reveal a tradition far more complex and sophisticated than popular culture suggests, encompassing everything from meteorology to psychology. The relationship between ninja and the common people during this period was complex. In regions like Iga and Kōga, ninja were integrated members of the community, contributing to local defense and economy. In other areas, they were feared and mistrusted, seen as dangerous outsiders who brought trouble. Some ninja cultivated positive relationships with peasant communities, protecting them from bandits or excessive taxation in exchange for support and information. Others exploited rural populations, using them as cover for operations or extracting resources through intimidation. Among the shadows of Japanese history, certain figures emerged whose names would echo through centuries, their exploits becoming the foundation of ninja mythology. These individuals, whether through exceptional skill, fortunate circumstances, or clever self-promotion, transcended their roles as mere operatives to become legendary figures whose stories, both real and embellished, would define how future generations understood the ninja tradition. Hattori Hanzō stands as perhaps the most famous name in ninja history, though the full truth of his story is more complex than popular legends suggest. Born in 1542 in Mikawa province, Hanzō was actually the second in his family line to bear that name, his father having established the Hattori clan's reputation in service to the Matsudaira family, who would later become the Tokugawa. The younger Hanzō entered service at age 16, and his first recorded combat experience came at the night attack on Udo Castle, where he led a small force of ninja in infiltrating the fortress and setting fires that allowed the main army to breach the defences. What distinguished Hattori Hanzō from many of his contemporaries was his ability to bridge the worlds of samurai and ninja. While maintaining his identity as a ninja leader, he also held official samurai rank and commanded regular troops in conventional battles. This dual nature made him invaluable to Tokugawa Ieyasu, who needed someone who could operate in both the formal world of samurai warfare and the shadow realm of espionage and special operations. Hanzo's most famous exploit came in 1582, following the assassination of Oda Nobunaga, when he helped guide Tokugawa Ieyasu through dangerous territory back to his home province, using his knowledge of secret paths and network of contacts to avoid enemy forces. The Hattori clan that Hanzo led consisted of around 200 ninja from Iga province, who had entered Tokugawa service after their homeland was devastated by Oda Nobunaga's invasion. Under Hanzo's leadership, these Iga survivors became the core of what would later be known as the Oniwaban, the secret police of the Tokugawa shogunate. Hanzo's reputation for loyalty was such that one of the gates of Edo Castle was named after him, the Hanzo Mon, which still gives its name to a Tokyo subway line today. Yet the historical Hattori Hanzō was quite different from his legendary portrayal. Contemporary records describe him as a skilled administrator and tactician rather than a superhuman warrior. He was known for his strategic mind and ability to manage intelligence networks, not for impossible acrobatic feats or mystical powers. His nickname, Oni no Hanzo, or Hanzo the Demon, likely referred to his fierce loyalty and effectiveness rather than any supernatural abilities. Interestingly, later in life, he seems to have experienced a spiritual crisis, becoming increasingly devoted to Buddhism and reportedly refusing to execute prisoners, unusual for a warrior of his era. Fumakotaro represents a different archetype in ninja history, the leader of an independent ninja clan that served various masters while maintaining its own identity and traditions. The Fuma clan operated in the Sagami region, serving the powerful Hojo family who controlled the Kanto area from their castle at Odawara. Unlike the Iga and Kōga ninja, who came from agricultural communities, the Fuma were said to have origins among pirates and bandits, giving them a particularly fierce reputation. The fifth generation Fumakotaro, who lived during the late Sengoku period, became the most famous bearer of the name. Historical records describe him as unusually tall for a Japanese person of that era, standing over 6 feet in height, with a powerful build and intimidating presence. His appearance alone was said to strike fear into enemies, and he cultivated this image carefully, sometimes appearing dramatically in battle to demoralize opposing forces. The Fuma clan specialized in what would today be called guerrilla warfare and psychological operations. During the siege of Odawara Castle in 1590, when Toyotomi Hideyoshi brought an overwhelming force against the Hojo, Fumakotaro led 200 ninja in nighttime raids against the besieging army. They would infiltrate the enemy camps, create chaos through arson and false alarms, and disappear before organized resistance could form. On one famous occasion they supposedly infiltrated the camp dressed as enemy soldiers and started fights among different units, causing Hideyoshi's forces to attack each other in the darkness. After the fall of the Hojo clan, Fumakotaro became a ronin, a masterless warrior, and his later life descended into banditry and piracy. He maintained a rivalry with the Tokugawa allied ninja, particularly those led by Hattori Hanzō, and various stories tell of conflicts between the two groups. Fumakotaro's end came in 1603, when he was captured and executed by the Tokugawa authorities, but his legend lived on, particularly in the Kanto region, where stories of the Fuma ninja continue to be told for generations. Momochi Sandayu represents yet another aspect of ninja legend, the master of disguise and multiple identities. One of the 3 great jonin or ninja leaders of Iga province, along with Hattori Hanzō and Fujibayashi Nagato, Momochi Sandayu was said to maintain 3 completely separate identities with different families, homes, and social circles. Each identity was so complete that none of his families knew about the others until after his death. The historical Momochi Sandayu was a leader of the Momochi clan, one of the most powerful ninja families in southern Iga. He was known for his strategic brilliance and his ability to coordinate complex operations involving multiple ninja teams. During the Iga revolt against Oda Nobunaga's invasion in 1579, Momochi Sandayu was one of the primary commanders of the resistance, organizing the defense that initially repelled Nobunaga's forces and inflicted surprising casualties on the much larger samurai army. The technique of maintaining multiple identities that Momochi Sandayu perfected became a standard practice among elite ninja. It required not just acting ability, but extraordinary mental discipline to keep the different personas separate and consistent. Each identity would have its own mannerisms, speech patterns, preferences, and social connections. The psychological strain of maintaining such deceptions for years or decades was enormous, and few ninja could manage more than two identities successfully. Ishikawa Goemon occupies a unique place in ninja legend as the noble thief, a figure who supposedly stole from the rich to help the poor. While his actual connection to formal ninja training is debated by historians, he clearly possessed skills associated with the ninja tradition. Born into a samurai family in Iga province, he was said to have studied ninjutsu under Momochi Sandayu before turning to a life of crime. Goemon's exploits as a thief became legendary, even during his lifetime. He supposedly infiltrated the most secure castles and mansions, stealing treasures that were thought to be perfectly protected. His most famous attempted theft was at Fushimi Castle, where he tried to steal from Toyotomi Hideyoshi himself. According to legend, he was detected when he accidentally knocked over a bell, though he still managed to escape. His ability to evade capture for years despite being one of the most wanted criminals in Japan added to his mystique. The end of Ishikawa Goemon came in 1594 when he was finally captured and sentenced to death by being boiled alive in a large iron kettle, along with his young son. Various legends surround his execution, including stories that he held his son above the boiling oil until the child died to spare him suffering, or, alternatively, that he plunged the child in first to give him a quick death. These stories, while probably apocryphal, illustrate how Goemon had captured the popular imagination as a tragic anti-hero. Mochizuki Chiyome represents one of the most intriguing figures in ninja history, a woman who created and led an extensive network of female ninja. The widow of a samurai warrior, she was recruited by Takeda Shingen, one of the most powerful daimyo of the Sengoku period, to establish a network of kunoichi to serve as spies and assassins. Operating from the village of Nazu in Shinano province, she created what appeared to be a charitable institution for orphaned and abandoned girls. This orphanage served as a training facility where young women learned the arts of espionage, assassination, and information gathering. Mochizuki Chiyome trained her students in various cover identities, including shrine maidens, entertainers, prostitutes, and servants. These women were then placed throughout Takeda territory and in enemy domains, creating an intelligence network that provided invaluable information to the Takeda clan. The exact number of kunoichi she trained is unknown, but some sources suggest it may have been in the hundreds. The training these women received was comprehensive and practical. They learned not just combat techniques adapted for female physiology, but also skills in poison preparation, seduction, psychology, and acting. They studied tea ceremony, flower arrangement, and other refined arts that would allow them to move in aristocratic circles. They learned to hide weapons in hair ornaments and clothing, to use their perceived weakness as a tactical advantage, and to extract information through emotional manipulation rather than force. Fujibayashi Nagato, the third of the great Iga Jonin, remains a more mysterious figure than his contemporaries. Historical records about him are sparse, and some scholars even question whether he was a single individual or a title used by multiple leaders of the Fujibayashi clan. What is known is that the Fujibayashi family controlled the northern portion of Iga province and maintained their own extensive intelligence networks. The Fujibayashi clan was particularly known for their expertise in explosives and incendiary devices. They developed sophisticated fire arrows, smoke bombs, and primitive hand grenades that could be used for both combat and distraction. Their knowledge of chemistry and metallurgy was advanced for the period, and they supposedly maintained secret workshops where they experimented with new compounds and devices. This technical expertise made them valuable allies and dangerous enemies. Kato Danzo, known as the Flying Kato, represents the more mystical and supernatural aspects of ninja legend. Active during the mid-16th century, he was said to possess incredible abilities, including the power to swallow a bull, to create illusions that could fool dozens of people simultaneously, and to appear and disappear at will. While these stories are obviously exaggerated, they point to someone with exceptional skills in stage magic, psychology, and misdirection. The historical Kato Danzo was probably a master of psychological warfare who used tricks and illusions to create a supernatural reputation that preceded him into battle. He served various masters during his career, including Wasugi Kenshin and Takeda Shingen, offering his services to the highest bidder. His mercenary nature and mysterious abilities made him both valued and mistrusted. According to some accounts, he was eventually executed by one of his employers who feared his powers and questionable loyalty. Saizo Kirigakure, also known as Kirigakure Saizo, became famous as one of the Sanada 10 Braves, a legendary group of ninja who served Sanada Yukimura during the early 17th century. While the historical existence of all 10 Braves is questionable, Saizo appears in enough contemporary records to suggest he was a real person, though his exploits were certainly embellished over time. Saizo was said to have been trained in Iga ninjutsu from childhood and possessed exceptional skills in infiltration and combat. His nickname Kirigakure means hidden in mist, referring to his ability to appear and disappear mysteriously. During the siege of Osaka Castle, he supposedly infiltrated enemy lines multiple times, gathering intelligence and spreading disinformation. His rivalry with another ninja named Sarutobi Sasuke became a popular theme in later literature and drama. The female ninja Nene, who later became known as Kodai-in after taking Buddhist vows, represents a different aspect of women's involvement in espionage during this period. As the wife of Toyotomi Hideyoshi, she wasn't a ninja in the traditional sense, but maintained an extensive intelligence network that helped her husband rise from peasant origins to become the de facto ruler of Japan. She placed loyal women throughout the courts and castles of Japan, creating an information network that rivaled any formal ninja organization. These legendary figures, whether fully historical or partly mythical, shaped how ninja were understood and remembered. Their stories were told and retold, each generation adding new details and embellishments. They became archetypes that defined different aspects of the ninja tradition: the loyal retainer, the independent mercenary, the master of disguise, the noble thief, the female spy, the technical innovator, and the mystical warrior. The transformation of an ordinary person into a skilled ninja required years of intensive training that pushed the boundaries of human, physical, and mental capability. This training began in early childhood for those born into ninja families and continued throughout their lives, as the ever-evolving nature of warfare and espionage demanded constant adaptation and improvement. The comprehensive nature of ninja training encompassed not merely combat techniques, but a complete education in survival, psychology, acting, medicine, and numerous practical skills that would enable operatives to function independently in hostile territory for extended periods. Physical conditioning formed the foundation of all ninja training, but it differed significantly from the strength-focused training of samurai warriors. Ninja training emphasized flexibility, endurance, and control rather than raw power. Children as young as 5 or 6 would begin with basic flexibility exercises, gradually working up to contortions that seemed impossible to normal people. They learned to dislocate and relocate their joints at will, allowing them to escape from bonds or squeeze through incredibly small spaces. This flexibility training was painful and sometimes dangerous, requiring careful supervision to prevent permanent injury. Endurance training took many forms, each designed to prepare ninja for the extreme demands of their missions. They would run for hours through mountainous terrain, learning to maintain steady paces that could be sustained all day and night if necessary. Swimming training included not just speed and distance, but specialized techniques like swimming while bound, moving silently through water, and holding their breath for extended periods. Some training exercises bordered on torture, such as hanging from tree branches until muscle failure, or sitting in freezing water to develop tolerance to cold. Balance and agility training utilized various ingenious methods. Young ninja would walk across narrow beams placed at increasing heights, eventually learning to run across ropes stretched between buildings. They practiced on special floors designed with different surfaces, some stable, others that would tilt or collapse if stepped on incorrectly. They learned to judge the weight-bearing capacity of different materials instantly, knowing whether a roof tile or tree branch would support them. This training developed an almost supernatural sense of balance and spatial awareness. The development of silent movement required years of dedicated practice. Ninja learned multiple walking techniques for different surfaces and situations. The basic stealth walk involved placing the foot down slowly from the outer edge, rolling it inward to distribute weight gradually. They practiced on floors covered with dried leaves or gravel, learning to move without creating sound. Advanced practitioners could supposedly cross a floor covered with rice paper without tearing it, though this may be legendary exaggeration. They also learned to control their breathing, matching it to ambient sounds like wind or flowing water. Combat training for ninja differed from samurai martial arts in its emphasis on efficiency over form. While samurai practiced elaborate kata and formal techniques, ninja focused on practical applications that would work in real combat situations. They learned to fight in confined spaces where traditional sword techniques were impossible. They practiced combat in complete darkness, relying on sound and air movement to track opponents. They studied anatomy to understand vital points and how to incapacitate enemies quickly and silently. The ninja approach to weapons training reflected their pragmatic philosophy. While they learned traditional weapons like swords and spears, they specialized in implements that could serve multiple purposes or be easily concealed. The kunai, often portrayed as a throwing knife, was primarily a tool for digging and climbing that could be used as a weapon if necessary. The kusarigama, a sickle with a weighted chain, could be used for farming, climbing, or combat. This versatility was essential for operatives who needed to travel light and avoid suspicion. Shuriken, the famous throwing stars, existed in numerous varieties, each with specific purposes. Some were designed for distraction rather than injury, creating noise when they hit surfaces. Others were grooved to carry poison, or designed to break apart on impact, creating multiple wounds. The art of shuriken jutsu involved not just accuracy, but understanding when and how to use these tools effectively. Contrary to popular belief, shuriken were rarely lethal weapons, but rather tools for creating opportunities to escape or attack with other weapons. The study of poisons and medicines formed a crucial part of ninja education. They learned to identify and prepare hundreds of different compounds from plants, animals, and minerals. Some poisons were designed to kill quickly, others to incapacitate or cause specific symptoms that might be mistaken for natural illness. They studied antidotes and treatments, both for their own protection and to save allies who might be poisoned. This pharmaceutical knowledge extended to healing medicines, as ninja often had to treat their own injuries without access to professional medical care. Explosives and incendiary devices represented some of the most advanced technical knowledge possessed by ninja. They learned to create various types of black powder with different burn rates for different applications. They developed smoke bombs that could provide cover for escape or signal allies. Flash powders could temporarily blind enemies. Incendiary arrows and bombs could set fires in enemy fortifications. The preparation of these devices required precise knowledge of chemistry and careful handling of dangerous materials. The art of disguise went far beyond simply wearing different clothes. Ninja learned to alter their apparent height through posture and specially designed footwear. They studied how to change their gait, voice and mannerisms to become completely different people. They learned dialects and accents from different regions of Japan. They studied the technical knowledge required for various professions, from Buddhist funeral rites to carpenter's terminology. A ninja posing as a merchant needed to know current prices and trade routes. One disguised as a monk had to know appropriate sutras and religious ceremonies. Psychological training was perhaps the most challenging aspect of ninja education. Students learned to control their emotions completely, showing fear, anger, or joy only when it served their purposes. They practiced maintaining false identities for extended periods, developing the mental discipline to never break character even under stress. They learned techniques for resisting interrogation, including how to provide false information convincingly and how to endure torture without revealing secrets. The development of memory techniques allowed ninja to retain vast amounts of information without written records. They learned mnemonic systems for remembering faces, names, layouts of buildings, and complex instructions. Some of these memory techniques were based on Buddhist meditation practices, others on association systems similar to modern memory palaces. The ability to observe a castle's defences during a brief visit and later reproduce detailed diagrams from memory was a valued skill. Intelligence-gathering techniques formed a major component of training. Ninja learned how to conduct surveillance without being detected, how to follow targets through crowded streets, and how to search rooms without leaving traces. They studied human psychology to understand how to extract information through conversation, how to identify potential informants, and how to recognize when they were being deceived. They learned to read body language and facial expressions, skills that could reveal more than words. The use of specialized climbing equipment required extensive training. Ninja developed various tools for scaling walls, including hooked ropes, collapsible ladders, and spiked hand and foot claws, called shuko and ashiko. Learning to use these tools effectively while maintaining silence and carrying other equipment took years of practice. They also learned to climb without tools, finding handholds and footholds that seemed impossible to normal observers. Survival training prepared ninja for extended operations in hostile territory. They learned to find food and water in various environments, from forests to urban areas. They studied weather prediction, navigation by stars, and tracking techniques. They learned to construct temporary shelters that would be invisible to casual observation. They practiced living off the land for weeks at a time, maintaining their strength and alertness despite limited resources. The training in codes and communications was extensive and sophisticated. Ninja learned multiple cipher systems, some based on classical Chinese texts, others unique to their clan. They studied ways to hide messages in innocent-seeming documents, artwork, or commercial goods. They learned various signaling methods, from smoke signals to arrangements of common objects that could convey complex messages to other ninja while appearing random to observers. Escape and evasion techniques were practiced constantly. Ninja learned to pick locks, escape from various types of restraints, and hide in seemingly impossible places. They practiced escaping from buildings through windows, roof tiles, and floorboards. They learned to use smoke, flash powder, and caltrops to slow pursuit. They studied the psychology of search parties, understanding where people typically look and where they overlook. The development of intuition and situational awareness was cultivated through various exercises. Ninja learned to sense danger before it manifested, to notice tiny details that might indicate traps or ambushes. They practiced maintaining awareness of their surroundings, even while appearing to focus on something else. This hypervigilance became second nature, allowing them to react instantly to threats. Specialized training for kunoichi included techniques that took advantage of social expectations about women. They learned to use their perceived weakness as a weapon, appearing helpless to lower guard before striking. They studied seduction as both an intelligence-gathering tool and a means of assassination. They learned to hide weapons in hair ornaments, clothing, and jewelry. They practiced using everyday items like hairpins, fans, and musical instruments as weapons. The tools and equipment used by ninja were ingenious in their design and versatility. The famous ninja toe or ninja sword was shorter than a samurai katana, making it easier to use in confined spaces and to conceal. The scabbard often had multiple uses, serving as a breathing tube for hiding underwater, or a blowgun for delivering poison darts. Some versions had hidden compartments for storing powders or small tools. Water-crossing equipment included various devices for moving through moats and rivers. Mizugumo, or water striders, were wooden discs that supposedly allowed ninja to walk on water, though their actual effectiveness is debated. Ukidaru were flotation devices that could be quickly inflated for crossing water. Shinobi bune were collapsible boats that could be carried disassembled and quickly constructed when needed. The variety of specialized arrows used by ninja demonstrated their innovative approach to weapons. Some arrows were designed to carry messages, others to spread fire or poison gas. Whistling arrows could signal allies or frighten enemies. Some arrows were designed to be non-lethal, used for distraction, or to deliver warning messages. The ability to modify standard equipment for specific mission requirements was a hallmark of ninja adaptability. Beyond the dramatic missions and legendary exploits, the vast majority of a ninja's existence consisted of mundane daily activities within their communities. The social structure of ninja villages and the rhythms of everyday life in places like Iga and Kōga were complex and fascinating, revealing a society that managed to balance the demands of a dangerous profession with the needs of family, agriculture, and community survival. These communities developed unique social systems that differed markedly from the rigid hierarchies that dominated most of feudal Japan. The physical layout of ninja villages reflected their dual nature as both farming communities and military installations. On the surface, they appeared to be ordinary rural settlements, with houses clustered around rice paddies and vegetable gardens. However, closer examination revealed sophisticated defensive planning. Houses were positioned to provide overlapping fields of view and fire. Streets were deliberately made narrow and winding to confuse invaders and prevent cavalry charges. What appeared to be random placement was actually careful strategic design developed over generations. Individual homes in ninja communities were marvels of defensive architecture disguised as simple farmhouses. They featured hidden compartments for storing weapons and documents, secret passages for escape, and observation posts concealed in roof structures. Some houses had floors that could be quickly removed to reveal pit traps or hidden fighters. Others had walls that appeared solid but could be pushed through for rapid escape. Gardens were designed not just for food production, but to provide cover for movement and materials for ninja tools and preparations. The family structure within ninja communities was both traditional and revolutionary. Like most Japanese families of the period, they were patriarchal with clear lines of authority and inheritance. However, the dangerous nature of their profession meant that women and children needed to be more self-sufficient than in typical farming villages. Women learned combat techniques and intelligence-gathering skills. Children were taught survival skills alongside their letters. Every family member, regardless of age or gender, understood that they might need to defend themselves or carry out clan missions. Marriage patterns in ninja communities reflected their unique circumstances. While marriages within the community strengthened internal bonds, marriages outside brought valuable connections and intelligence opportunities. A ninja marrying into a merchant family in a nearby town created a legitimate reason for regular travel and information exchange. These strategic marriages were carefully planned, with considerations beyond personal compatibility, including the intelligence value and security implications of each union. The education of children in ninja villages was remarkably comprehensive. Alongside the specialized ninja training, children received education in literacy, mathematics, and classical Chinese texts. This broad education was practical rather than cultural. Literacy was essential for reading orders and writing reports. Mathematics was needed for calculating distances, mixing chemical compounds, and managing finances. Knowledge of classical texts allowed ninja to pose convincingly as educated individuals when necessary. The economic life of ninja communities was necessarily diverse. While rice cultivation provided basic sustenance, it couldn't support the entire population, especially given the time demands of training and missions. Ninja communities developed various industries, including medicine production, metalworking, and specialized crafts. They manufactured and sold legitimate products, while secretly producing ninja tools and weapons. Some families specialized in particular industries, creating cover stories for their real activities. The governance structures in ninja communities were remarkably democratic for feudal Japan. Major decisions were made by councils representing different families and interests. Leadership positions often rotated, preventing any single family from accumulating too much power. This system required sophisticated political skills and constant negotiation. Disputes were resolved through mediation and compromise rather than authoritarian decree. This collaborative approach was essential for maintaining unity in communities where every family possessed potentially dangerous skills and knowledge. The role of religion in ninja communities was complex and pragmatic. While most Japanese of the period followed Buddhism or Shinto with genuine devotion, ninja communities used religion strategically. Temples and shrines provided meeting places, safe houses, and cover for operations. Religious festivals offered opportunities for intelligence gathering and communication with agents. Some ninja became genuine priests or monks, using their religious positions to travel freely and gather information. The syncretistic approach to religion that characterized ninja communities reflected their practical philosophy of using whatever tools served their purposes. Daily training routines were integrated into regular life activities. Morning exercises might be disguised as farm work. Weapons practice could occur under the guise of maintaining tools. Children's games incorporated elements of ninja training, teaching skills like stealth and observation through play. This integration of training into daily life meant that ninja skills were constantly reinforced without requiring dedicated training facilities that might attract unwanted attention. The social relationships within ninja communities were necessarily built on unusual levels of trust and mutual dependence. Every member knew that their survival might depend on their neighbor's discretion and skill. This created intense social bonds, but also significant pressure. The shame of failure or betrayal extended beyond the individual to their entire family. Social control mechanisms were subtle but powerful, with ostracism being a fate worse than death in these tightly knit communities. The treatment of elderly ninja reveals interesting aspects of their social structure. Unlike samurai who might commit suicide when no longer able to fight, elderly ninja were valued for their knowledge and experience. They became teachers, advisors, and keepers of clan secrets. They maintained intelligence networks through correspondence with former contacts. Some continued to undertake missions that required cunning rather than physical prowess. The respect accorded to elderly ninja reflected the tradition's emphasis on knowledge and wisdom over pure martial prowess. The role of artisans and craftsmen within ninja communities was crucial. Blacksmiths didn't just make farm tools, but also specialized weapons and climbing equipment. Carpenters understood both construction and how to build hidden compartments and secret passages. Herbalists prepared both medicines and poisons. These specialists passed their knowledge through apprenticeship systems, carefully selecting students who could be trusted with dangerous knowledge. Food culture in ninja communities included both ordinary rural cuisine and specialized dietary practices. Ninja developed concentrated foods that could sustain them during long missions. They created pills that supposedly suppressed hunger, though these were probably stimulants that masked fatigue rather than providing nutrition. They studied which plants could be eaten raw, which required preparation to remove toxins, and which could serve medicinal purposes. This knowledge of food as medicine and tool reflected their holistic approach to survival. The seasonal rhythms of agricultural life provided cover for ninja activities. Spring planting and autumn harvest required all community members' participation, providing alibis for the absence of those on missions. Winter's reduced agricultural activity allowed for intensive training and planning. Summer's travel season offered opportunities for intelligence gathering, as ninja could move freely among merchants and pilgrims. These natural cycles were exploited skillfully to balance the demands of survival and profession. Childhood in ninja communities was simultaneously normal and extraordinary. Children played, attended festivals, and helped with farm work like rural children everywhere. But they also learned to observe strangers carefully, to remember faces and conversations, to move silently through their own homes. They grew up understanding that their communities harboured dangerous secrets, and that discretion could be a matter of life and death. This early conditioning produced adults who could maintain operational security instinctively. The justice system within ninja communities had to balance traditional Japanese concepts of law with the unique requirements of their profession. Crimes within the community were handled internally whenever possible, as involving outside authorities risked exposure. Punishments ranged from fines and public shame to exile or execution for serious betrayals. The death penalty was reserved for those who endangered the entire community through treachery or gross incompetence. This harsh justice reflected the high stakes of maintaining secrecy. Gender roles in ninja communities, while still patriarchal by modern standards, were more fluid than in mainstream Japanese society. Women participated in community defense, gathered intelligence, and sometimes led operations. The famous kunoichi were not exceptions, but examples of a broader pattern of female participation. Women managed households and businesses when men were away on missions, developing administrative and financial skills unusual for their era. Some women became respected teachers and advisors, particularly in areas like poison preparation and disguise. The relationship between ninja communities and neighbouring non-ninja villages was carefully managed. Ninja communities needed to maintain normal commercial and social relationships while concealing their true nature. They participated in regional festivals, traded in local markets, and intermarried with neighbouring communities. This required constant vigilance and careful story management. Every interaction with outsiders was potentially both an intelligence opportunity and a security risk. Entertainment and leisure activities in ninja communities served multiple purposes. Traditional arts like tea ceremony and flower arrangement were practiced both for their own sake and as skills that might be useful for infiltration missions. Music and dance provided cover for physical training and coordination exercises. Storytelling preserved clan history and transmitted technical knowledge through memorable narratives. Even gambling and drinking games could serve as training for maintaining composure and reading opponents. The medical practices in ninja communities combined traditional Chinese medicine with practical battlefield surgery and unique toxicology knowledge. Every family maintained supplies of medicines and antidotes. Women often specialized in midwifery and herbal medicine, providing healthcare that was sometimes superior to what was available in cities. The emphasis on preventive medicine and physical fitness meant that ninja communities often had better health outcomes than their neighbors, despite the dangerous nature of their profession. The preservation and transmission of ninja knowledge required sophisticated systems. Written records were kept in code or cipher, often distributed among multiple holders so that no single person possessed complete information. Oral traditions preserved technical knowledge through songs, stories, and mnemonics. Physical skills were transmitted through direct demonstration and practice. This multi-layered approach to knowledge preservation ensured that clan secrets survived, even if written records were destroyed or individual teachers died. The psychological and spiritual dimensions of ninjutsu represented far more than simple combat techniques or espionage methods. The ninja developed sophisticated philosophical frameworks that allowed them to reconcile the moral contradictions of their profession, maintain psychological stability despite extreme stress, and achieve levels of mental discipline that seem supernatural to outside observers. These philosophical foundations drew from multiple sources including Buddhism, Taoism, Shinto, and indigenous Japanese spiritual practices, creating a unique synthesis that was both pragmatic and profound. The concept of mu or nothingness formed a central pillar of ninja philosophy. Borrowed from Zen Buddhism but given unique interpretation, mu for the ninja meant the ability to empty oneself of fixed identity, becoming whatever the mission required. This wasn't mere acting, but a deeper psychological state where the operative truly became their cover identity, thinking and feeling as that person would. This mental flexibility allowed ninja to maintain deep cover for extended periods without the psychological strain that would break ordinary people. The principle of in-yo, the Japanese reading of yin-yang, provided a framework for understanding the dynamic balance required in all aspects of ninja life. Light and darkness, strength and flexibility, action and patience all existed in complementary relationship rather than opposition. A successful ninja understood when to be aggressive and when to yield, when to be visible and when to disappear. This philosophical understanding translated into practical techniques, from combat moves that used an opponent's strength against them to intelligence operations that turned enemy assets into advantages. Fudoshin, the immovable mind, represented the ideal mental state for a ninja facing danger or uncertainty. This concept, derived from Buddhist meditation practices, described a mind that remained calm and centered regardless of external circumstances. Through years of meditation and mental training, ninja developed the ability to maintain this state even in life-threatening situations. This mental stability allowed them to think clearly when others would panic, to notice crucial details when others were overwhelmed by fear, and to make optimal decisions under extreme pressure. The relationship between ninja and death was complex and evolved significantly from Buddhist teachings. While samurai glorified honorable death in battle, ninja viewed survival as the highest priority. This wasn't cowardice, but a different understanding of duty and value. A dead ninja couldn't complete missions or share intelligence. The ninja philosophy emphasized that there was no shame in retreat, no dishonor in survival, and no glory in unnecessary death. This pragmatic approach to mortality required its own form of courage, the courage to endure shame and criticism in service of larger objectives. The concept of Kyojitsu Tenkan, the interplay of truth and falsehood, provided philosophical justification for the deception that was central to ninja operations. Rather than viewing lies as moral failures, ninja philosophy recognized that perceived reality could be as powerful as objective truth. By controlling what others believed to be true, ninja could achieve their objectives without direct confrontation. This sophisticated understanding of perception and reality management would be familiar to modern intelligence professionals and psychological warfare specialists. Kuji-in, the 9-syllable seals, represented one of the most esoteric aspects of ninja spiritual practice. These hand positions, accompanied by specific mantras and visualizations, were believed to focus spiritual energy for various purposes. While modern skeptics dismiss these practices as superstition, they served important psychological functions. The ritual of performing Kuji-in before dangerous missions helped ninja achieve the proper mental state, similar to how modern athletes use pre-performance routines. Whether or not they possessed mystical power, they demonstrably affected the practitioner's confidence and focus. The ninja understanding of kokoro, heart-mind, reflected a holistic view of human consciousness that didn't separate emotion from intellect. Training the kokoro meant developing both emotional resilience and mental acuity. Ninja learned to use emotions as tools rather than being controlled by them. Fear could sharpen awareness if properly channeled. Anger could provide energy if carefully directed. Love and loyalty could motivate extraordinary efforts if balanced with practical judgment. This emotional intelligence was as important as physical skills for successful operations. The practice of mushin, no mind, allowed ninja to act without conscious thought, responding instantly to threats based on trained instinct rather than deliberation. This state, achieved through years of repetitive training and meditation, enabled the seemingly superhuman reflexes that contributed to ninja mystique. In mushin state, the body acted faster than conscious thought, implementing techniques practiced thousands of times without the delay of decision-making. This principle influenced not just combat, but all aspects of ninja operations. The spiritual relationship between ninja and nature went beyond practical knowledge of plants and animals. Many ninja practiced forms of nature mysticism, believing that by harmonizing with natural forces, they could move undetected and predict enemy actions. They studied the behavior of animals not just for practical techniques, but for spiritual lessons. The patience of the spider, the alertness of the deer, the adaptability of water, all provided models for ninja development. This deep connection to nature provided both practical advantages and psychological grounding. The concept of WA, harmony, influenced how ninja understood their role in larger social and cosmic orders. Despite their outsider status, most ninja didn't see themselves as rebels against society, but as necessary components maintaining balance in a complex world. They viewed their activities as preserving equilibrium between competing powers, preventing any single force from becoming too dominant. This philosophical framework helped them rationalize actions that might otherwise seem morally questionable, seeing themselves as instruments of cosmic balance rather than simple mercenaries or criminals. The practice of Chinkon, pacifying the spirit, involved meditation techniques designed to achieve profound states of mental calm and spiritual connection. Ninja would sit in specific postures, often in natural settings like waterfalls or mountaintops, practicing breathing exercises and visualizations that supposedly aligned their personal energy with universal forces. These practices, derived from ancient Shinto rituals and Taoist meditation, were believed to enhance intuition, allowing practitioners to sense danger before it manifested physically. Whether through genuine spiritual connection or heightened subconscious awareness, many ninja reported experiences of premonition that saved their lives. The philosophical concept of makoto, sincerity or truth, might seem contradictory for professional deceivers, but ninja interpreted it in sophisticated ways. They distinguished between surface deception and deeper truth, arguing that their false identities served true purposes. A ninja posing as a merchant was false in identity, but true in dedication to their mission. This philosophical nuance allowed them to maintain psychological integrity despite living lives of constant deception. They were sincere in their insincerity, truthful in their commitment to falsehood. The influence of Mikkyo, esoteric Buddhism, provided ninja with complex symbolic systems and ritual practices. The mandala, geometric representations of cosmic order, were used as meditation tools and memory devices. Secret mudras, hand gestures, with supposed spiritual power, were incorporated into ninja practice. The concept of Sokushin Jobutsu, achieving enlightenment in this very body, resonated with ninja who sought practical spiritual development rather than abstract philosophy. These esoteric practices added layers of meaning to ninja training, transforming physical techniques into spiritual disciplines. The psychological technique of bunshi, dividing the mind, allowed ninja to compartmentalize different aspects of their consciousness. They could separate their true self from their cover identities, their emotions from their actions, their personal desires from their professional duties. This mental division prevented the psychological fragmentation that might otherwise result from maintaining multiple identities and performing morally ambiguous acts. It was a survival mechanism that preserved sanity in insane circumstances. The concept of jihi, compassion, existed in tension with the violent nature of ninja work. Rather than abandoning compassion, many ninja developed selective and strategic applications of this principle. They might show mercy to innocents, while ruthlessly eliminating threats. They distinguished between necessary violence and cruelty, striving to accomplish missions with minimum suffering. This selective compassion wasn't weakness, but another tool, as acts of unexpected mercy could sometimes achieve objectives more effectively than violence. The practice of kanashibari, a form of paralysis supposedly induced through spiritual power, illustrated the intersection of psychology and mysticism in ninja tradition. While stories of ninja paralyzing enemies with a glance were certainly exaggerated, the psychological techniques for inducing fear-based paralysis were real. Through reputation, appearance, and psychological manipulation, skilled ninja could sometimes immobilize opponents through fear rather than physical restraint. The belief in such powers could become self-fulfilling prophecy. The philosophical understanding of time in ninja tradition differed from linear Western concepts. They practiced forms of meditation that altered time perception, making hours pass like minutes during surveillance or stretching seconds into subjective minutes during combat. This flexibility in temporal experience allowed them to maintain patience during long operations and achieve heightened awareness during critical moments. Time became another tool to be manipulated rather than a fixed constraint. The concept of giri, duty or obligation, took unique forms in ninja society. Unlike samurai who owed absolute loyalty to a single lord, ninja navigated complex webs of obligation to clan, employer, family, and self. They developed sophisticated ethical frameworks for prioritizing these sometimes conflicting duties. The ability to balance multiple obligations without losing ethical grounding required philosophical sophistication that contradicted stereotypes of ninja as amoral mercenaries. The practice of shugyo, austere training, went beyond physical conditioning to encompass spiritual development. Ninja would undertake pilgrimages to sacred mountains, practice extended fasting, or maintain difficult postures for hours. These practices were believed to develop spiritual power that enhanced physical abilities. Modern understanding might interpret these effects as psychological, but practitioners experienced genuine enhancement of capabilities through these spiritual disciplines. The relationship between ninja and kami, the Shinto spirits inhabiting natural features and objects, was practical rather than purely devotional. Ninja would make offerings at shrines before missions, not just for divine protection, but to psychologically prepare themselves. They studied local spiritual beliefs wherever they operated, understanding that manipulating religious fears and expectations could be as effective as physical infiltration. This pragmatic approach to spirituality characterized their entire philosophical system. The concept of musubi, connection or union, influenced how ninja understood their relationship to tools, weapons, and environment. Rather than seeing these as separate objects to be used, they sought union with them. A weapon became an extension of the body. A disguise became a second skin. A hiding place became part of the self. This philosophical approach translated into practical advantages, as ninja who achieved musubi with their tools used them more naturally and effectively than those who maintained subject-object separation. The practice of kujikiri, 9 symbolic cuts, represented a rapid ritual for achieving proper mental state before action. Using hand gestures to symbolically cut through obstacles, ninja could quickly transition from normal consciousness to operational readiness. Each cut represented overcoming a different obstacle: fear, doubt, confusion, attachment, anger, ignorance, ego, hesitation, and delusion. This ritualized mental preparation took only seconds but could mean the difference between success and failure. The philosophical concept of zanshin, continuing mind, taught ninja to maintain awareness and readiness even after apparent completion of action. A successful infiltration wasn't over until safe extraction. A defeated enemy might have allies nearby. This principle of continued vigilance extended beyond missions to encompass all aspects of life. Ninja never fully relaxed, never completely dropped their guard, understanding that momentary inattention could prove fatal. The establishment of the Tokugawa shogunate in 1603 marked a fundamental transformation in Japanese society that would profoundly affect the ninja tradition. After centuries of constant warfare, Japan entered an unprecedented period of peace and stability that would last over 250 years. This Pax Tokugawa, while bringing prosperity and cultural flowering to Japan, gradually eliminated the conditions that had allowed ninja to flourish. The story of ninja during the Edo period is one of adaptation, transformation, and eventual decline as the shadow warriors struggled to find purpose in a world that no longer needed their traditional skills. The Battle of Sekigahara in 1600 and the subsequent siege of Osaka Castle in 1614-1615 represented the last major conflicts where ninja played significant military roles. During these campaigns, various ninja groups found themselves on different sides of the conflict, with some supporting the Tokugawa and others backing their opponents. The Tokugawa victory meant reward for some ninja groups and destruction for others. The political consolidation that followed eliminated the multipolar competition that had created demand for ninja services. Tokugawa Ieyasu's approach to the ninja who had served him was pragmatic and calculated. He understood their value, but also recognized the threat they posed to stable governments. The Hattori clan and other Iga ninja who had proven their loyalty were incorporated into the official government structure, transforming from irregular warriors into official security forces. They were settled in the Yotsuya district of Edo, where they served as guards for Edo Castle and performed intelligence functions for the shogunate. This official recognition provided security, but also meant the end of their independence. The transformation of ninja into government employees fundamentally changed their nature and function. Instead of operating in shadows as independent agents, they became uniformed guards and official inspectors. Their duties shifted from infiltration and assassination to more mundane tasks like investigating smuggling, monitoring dissidents, and providing security for government facilities. While they retained some of their traditional skills, the context and application changed dramatically. They were ninja in name and heritage, but increasingly conventional in practice. The establishment of the Oniwaban, the Garden Guards, represented the most successful adaptation of ninja traditions to Edo period realities. Created by the 8th shogun, Tokugawa Yoshimune, in the early 18th century, the Oniwaban served as an intelligence service for the shogunate. They gathered information on daimyo activities, monitored potential dissidents, and investigated corruption. Unlike the dramatic infiltrations of the Sengoku period, Oniwaban operations typically involved patient observation, careful documentation, and discreet investigation. The social position of former ninja families during the Edo period was complex and often precarious. Those who had received official positions enjoyed samurai status and its associated privileges. However, many ninja families found themselves without clear social position in the rigid class system that the Tokugawa imposed. Some managed to maintain their communities by transforming into peaceful villages focused on farming and traditional crafts. Others dispersed, their members seeking new lives in cities or other regions. The economic challenges facing ninja communities were severe. The skills that had commanded high prices during wartime had little value in peacetime. Some ninja families successfully transitioned to other professions, using their knowledge of medicine to become doctors, their understanding of metallurgy to become craftsmen, or their literacy to become teachers or administrators. Others struggled with poverty, their specialized skills useless in a peaceful society. The preservation of ninja knowledge became increasingly difficult as practical application disappeared. Without real missions to test and refine techniques, training became increasingly theoretical and ritualized. Scrolls and manuals were preserved, but the living tradition of practical experience began to fade. Each generation knew less than the previous one, as there was no opportunity to practice skills in real conditions. What had been practical knowledge gradually transformed into historical curiosity. The mythologization of ninja began during the Edo period as their reality faded. Popular literature and theatre began featuring ninja characters, often with wildly exaggerated abilities. The distinction between historical ninja and fictional creations blurred as audiences preferred dramatic stories to mundane reality. Ninja became stock characters in kabuki plays and illustrated novels, usually portrayed as either villains or mysterious anti-heroes with supernatural powers. The relationship between former ninja and the merchant class that rose to prominence during the Edo period created interesting dynamics. Some ninja families successfully integrated into merchant communities, using their organizational skills and networks for commercial purposes. The discipline and secrecy that had served them in espionage proved valuable in competitive business environments. Some historians suggest that certain successful merchant houses of the Edo period had ninja origins, though proving such connections remains difficult. The development of ninja-related tourism began surprisingly early. By the mid-Edo period, the formerly secret villages of Iga and Kōga had become objects of curiosity for travellers. Former ninja families capitalized on this interest, selling supposed ninja tools and medicines to visitors. They performed demonstrations of ninja techniques, though these were often more theatrical than authentic. This early commercialization of ninja culture presaged the modern tourist industry that still thrives in these regions. The role of ninja in law enforcement during the Edo period represented a significant transformation of their skills. Some former ninja became doshin, low-ranking police officers who investigated crimes and apprehended criminals. Their skills in observation, tracking, and subduing opponents without killing them proved valuable in urban law enforcement. The techniques they developed for non-lethal capture influenced Japanese police methods that continue to emphasize minimal force. The intellectual contributions of former ninja to Edo period society were significant but often unrecognized. Their traditions of careful observation and documentation influenced the development of natural sciences in Japan. Their pharmaceutical knowledge contributed to medical advances. Their understanding of psychology and human behavior influenced educational and administrative practices. These contributions were rarely attributed to ninja origins, as former ninja families often preferred to conceal their backgrounds in peaceful society. The gradual loss of physical conditioning and combat skills among ninja descendants reflected the broader softening of the warrior class during the Edo period. Without real combat to maintain edge, training became increasingly formalized and ritualistic. The extreme physical conditioning that had characterized Sengoku period ninja was no longer necessary or even desirable. Urban life and administrative duties required different skills than mountain survival and castle infiltration. The preservation efforts undertaken by some ninja families during the late Edo period reflected recognition that their traditions were disappearing. The compilation of comprehensive manuals like the Banzen Shukai in 1676 represented attempts to preserve knowledge that was no longer being actively practiced. These documents, written in deliberately obscure language to prevent unauthorized use, became the primary sources for later understanding of historical ninja practices. The social integration of ninja descendants into mainstream society accelerated during the later Edo period. Intermarriage with non-ninja families became common. Children were increasingly educated in Confucian classics rather than ninja techniques. The distinct identity that had characterized ninja communities gradually dissolved as they assimilated into broader Japanese society. By the end of the Edo period, most descendants of ninja families were indistinguishable from their neighbors. The impact of Confucian philosophy on former ninja communities represented a significant cultural shift. The Tokugawa shogunate promoted Neo-Confucianism as official ideology, emphasizing hierarchy, loyalty, and social order. These values conflicted with the pragmatic flexibility that had characterized ninja philosophy. Former ninja had to reconcile their traditions with new orthodox values, often reinterpreting their history to align with Confucian principles. The role of women in ninja families changed dramatically during the Edo period. The relative gender equality that had characterized some ninja communities gave way to more conventional patriarchal structures. The tradition of kunoichi largely disappeared, as women were increasingly confined to domestic roles. Some female descendants of ninja families maintained knowledge of medicines and poisons, but the warrior aspects of their heritage were suppressed. The technological changes of the Edo period reduced the relevance of many ninja skills. Improved castle construction made infiltration more difficult. Better administrative systems made false identities harder to maintain. The development of firearms continued to change military tactics in ways that reduced the importance of individual warriors. The skills that had made ninja valuable were increasingly obsolete in a modernizing society. The Meiji Restoration of 1868 marks the definitive end of the classical ninja tradition, as Japan rapidly modernized and westernized, abandoning many aspects of its feudal past. Yet paradoxically, just as the reality of ninja faded into history, their mythological presence began to grow, eventually becoming one of Japan's most recognizable cultural exports. The transformation of ninja from historical reality to global popular culture phenomenon represents a fascinating study in how historical traditions are reimagined, commercialized, and internationalized in the modern world. The initial response of ninja descendants to the Meiji Restoration varied considerably. Some embraced the new opportunities provided by modernization, using their organizational skills and discipline to succeed in modern military or business ventures. Others struggled with the loss of identity and purpose that came with the complete dissolution of their traditional role. The abolition of the class system meant that former ninja no longer had any special status, becoming ordinary citizens in a rapidly changing nation. The Meiji government's attitude toward ninja heritage was ambivalent and sometimes hostile, as Japan sought to present itself as a modern civilized nation to Western powers. The ninja tradition was seen as embarrassing evidence of a barbaric past. Official histories minimized or ignored ninja contributions to Japanese military developments. The new national narrative emphasized samurai honor and loyalty while suppressing the pragmatic flexibility that ninja represented. This official disapproval drove ninja history further into obscurity. Some former ninja found unexpected relevance in Japan's modernization efforts. Their traditional knowledge of chemistry proved valuable in developing modern explosives and industrial processes. Their understanding of intelligence gathering influenced the development of modern Japanese intelligence services. Their experience with codes and ciphers contributed to military and diplomatic communications. These contributions were rarely acknowledged publicly, as the government preferred to attribute innovations to Western learning rather than feudal traditions. The role of ninja descendants in the Russo-Japanese War of 1904 to 1905 remains a subject of historical debate. Some sources suggest that traditional ninja techniques were employed in intelligence gathering and sabotage operations, though official records are deliberately vague. What is certain is that Japan's surprisingly effective intelligence operations during this conflict demonstrated capabilities that may have drawn on ninja traditions, even if the connection was never officially acknowledged. The emergence of ninja in popular literature during the Taisho and early Showa periods marked the beginning of their transformation into mythological figures. Authors like Yamada Futaro began writing historical fiction featuring ninja protagonists with increasingly fantastic abilities. These stories, while entertaining, bore little resemblance to historical reality. The ninja of fiction could turn invisible, transform into animals, and perform impossible physical feats. This mythologization accelerated as Japan sought escapist entertainment during difficult periods. World War II created complex and controversial connections to ninja heritage. The Japanese military developed special operations units that employed tactics reminiscent of ninja traditions, including infiltration, sabotage, and psychological warfare. Some military trainers explicitly referenced ninja techniques, though the connection was more inspirational than practical. The post-war period saw both Japanese and American intelligence services studying historical ninja methods for applicable techniques, though most concluded that modern technology had rendered traditional methods obsolete. The American occupation of Japan from 1945 to 1952 had unexpected consequences for ninja culture. American servicemen, fascinated by exotic Japanese traditions, became early international ambassadors for ninja mythology. They brought back stories, souvenirs, and eventually martial arts training that included supposed ninja techniques. This American interest would later prove crucial in the global popularization of ninja culture. The 1960s witnessed the beginning of serious academic study of ninja history. Scholars like Okusi Heishi-Chiro began researching historical documents and archaeological evidence to separate ninja fact from fiction. These academic efforts revealed a tradition far more complex and sophisticated than popular culture suggested, but their scholarly publications reached limited audiences compared to the growing entertainment industry built around ninja mythology. The explosion of ninja-themed entertainment in the 1980s transformed them into global cultural icons. Movies, television shows, comic books, and video games featuring ninja reached audiences worldwide. The image of the black-clad warrior with throwing stars and supernatural abilities became instantly recognizable across cultures. This popularization, while commercially successful, moved even further from historical reality. The ninja of popular culture became a fantasy figure, bearing little resemblance to the historical shadow warriors of feudal Japan. The establishment of ninja museums and theme parks in Japan represented efforts to capitalize on international interest while preserving some historical authenticity. The Iga Ninja Museum, opened in 1964, attempts to balance education about historical ninja with the entertainment expectations of tourists. These institutions face constant tension between historical accuracy and commercial viability, often compromising authenticity for visitor satisfaction. The modern ninjutsu movement, claiming to preserve authentic ninja martial arts, emerged in the late 20th century. Organizations like the Bujinkan, led by Masaki Hatsumi, claim direct lineage from historical ninja traditions. These groups teach martial arts techniques supposedly passed down through generations of secret transmission. Academic historians remain skeptical of many lineage claims, noting the lack of documentary evidence and the similarity of many techniques to modern martial arts innovations. The influence of ninja on modern popular culture extends far beyond direct representations. The archetype of the stealthy warrior has influenced countless fictional characters and narratives. Video game mechanics of stealth and infiltration draw directly from ninja mythology. The concept of the ninja has become a global metaphor for skill, secrecy, and dedication. Terms like ninja are applied to everything from kitchen appliances to computer programmers, demonstrating the complete abstraction of the concept from its historical origins. The economic impact of ninja culture on modern Japan is substantial. Ninja-related tourism generates millions of dollars annually. Ninja-themed products sell worldwide. Japanese soft power benefits from the global fascination with ninja culture. Cities with ninja heritage have built entire economic development strategies around their historical connections. The commercialization of ninja culture has become more economically significant than the historical ninja tradition ever was. The role of ninja in modern Japanese identity is complex and sometimes contradictory. While ninja are celebrated as part of Japan's unique cultural heritage, they also represent aspects of the past that conflict with modern Japanese values. The emphasis on deception and pragmatism contrasts with idealized notions of Japanese honor and directness. Young Japanese often know more about fictional ninja from anime and manga than about historical ninja traditions. Contemporary martial arts claiming ninja heritage have spread globally, with schools teaching ninjutsu on every continent. These modern practices typically combine elements from various martial arts with philosophical teachings attributed to ninja tradition. The authenticity of these practices matters less to most practitioners than their effectiveness for physical fitness, self-defense, and personal development. The ninja concept has become a vehicle for various modern purposes, largely disconnected from historical reality. The academic study of ninja history continues to evolve with new archaeological discoveries and document analysis. Recent excavations in Iga and Kōga have revealed physical evidence of ninja activities, including weapons, tools, and architectural features. Scholars continue to debate fundamental questions about ninja history, including the extent of their influence, the authenticity of traditional claims, and the relationship between historical reality and later mythologization. The influence of ninja concepts on modern security and intelligence practices represents an interesting continuation of their legacy. While modern intelligence agencies don't employ traditional ninja techniques, concepts like social engineering, psychological operations, and human intelligence gathering echo ninja approaches. Some military special operations units study historical ninja tactics for applicable principles, though always adapted to modern technology and contexts. The philosophical aspects of ninja tradition have found unexpected resonance in modern business and self-help contexts. Books on ninja marketing or ninja negotiation tactics proliferate, usually focusing on concepts of flexibility, adaptation, and indirect approach. While these applications often stretch historical connections beyond recognition, they demonstrate the continued appeal of ninja concepts as metaphors for strategic thinking. The preservation efforts for authentic ninja heritage face numerous challenges. Physical sites associated with ninja history require constant maintenance and protection from development. Documentary evidence needs careful preservation and study. Traditional skills and knowledge maintained by descendant families are disappearing as younger generations lose interest. The tension between preservation and commercialization creates difficult decisions for communities with ninja heritage. The global spread of ninja culture has created interesting cultural exchanges and hybridizations. American ninja movies influenced Japanese creators who then produced their own interpretations that were re-exported globally. Each culture adapts the ninja concept to its own narratives and values, creating multiple versions of ninja that reflect local rather than Japanese perspectives. The ninja has become a truly global figure, owned by no single culture. The digital age has transformed how ninja culture spreads and evolves. Online communities share information, debate authenticity, and create new ninja-themed content. Video games allow players to experience fantasized versions of ninja activities. Social media spreads ninja memes and concepts instantly across cultures. The internet has both preserved information about historical ninja and accelerated the creation of new mythologies. The question of what constitutes authentic ninja tradition in the modern world has no simple answer. With the breaking of direct transmission lines and the loss of practical application, any modern practice claiming ninja heritage involves significant reconstruction and interpretation. Different groups propose different criteria for authenticity, from documentary evidence to spiritual transmission to practical effectiveness. These debates reflect larger questions about how traditional cultures survive and adapt in modern contexts. Looking toward the future, the ninja legacy seems secure in its mythological rather than historical form. the fictional ninja has become too embedded in global popular culture to disappear. Academic study will continue to refine our understanding of historical ninja, but this scholarly knowledge will likely remain separate from popular perception. The tension between history and mythology, authenticity and entertainment will continue to characterize the ninja's place in modern culture. Conclusion. As we reach the end of this extensive journey through the complete history of the ninja, from their ancient origins in the mountains of Japan to their transformation into global cultural icons, we find ourselves contemplating one of history's most remarkable transformations. The shinobi, who once moved through the shadows of feudal Japan, whose very existence depended on remaining unknown and unseen, have become some of the most visible and recognized figures in world popular culture. The true legacy of the ninja extends far beyond the popular images of black-clad warriors performing impossible acrobatic feats. Their real contribution to history lies in their demonstration that alternative approaches to warfare, governance, and survival were possible even within rigid feudal systems. The democratic governance structures of Iga and Kōga, the practical philosophy that valued survival over honor, the integration of diverse knowledge from medicine to psychology, all represented innovations that challenged conventional thinking of their time. The ninja tradition reminds us that history is always more complex than simple narratives suggest. These were not merely assassins and spies, but complete communities with their own cultures, values, and ways of life. They were farmers and craftsmen, parents and children, teachers and students. They maintained sophisticated intellectual traditions, developed innovative technologies, and created social structures that balanced individual skill with collective survival. Their story is one of human adaptation and ingenuity in challenging circumstances. The transformation of ninja from historical reality to mythological fiction also teaches important lessons about how cultures create and recreate their pasts. The ninja we know today through movies, games, and popular culture bears little resemblance to the historical shinobi, yet this mythological ninja serves important cultural functions. It provides a vessel for exploring themes of identity, power, and resistance. It offers fantasies of individual empowerment in constraining social systems. It creates commercial opportunities and cultural connections across national boundaries. Perhaps most significantly, the ninja tradition challenges us to think about the nature of power and how it can be exercised. In a world dominated by conventional military might and rigid social hierarchies, the ninja demonstrated that knowledge, flexibility, and cunning could sometimes overcome pure force. Their emphasis on intelligence gathering over direct confrontation, their use of psychological warfare alongside physical combat, and their ability to achieve objectives through indirect means offer lessons that remain relevant in our modern world. The story of the ninja is ultimately a human story, filled with courage and compromise, innovation and tradition, survival and sacrifice. It reminds us that, even in the most restrictive circumstances, human beings find ways to adapt, resist, and persist. The ninja communities that maintained their independence for centuries against powerful forces demonstrated that alternative ways of organizing society and conducting conflict were possible. As we close this narrative, we're reminded that the shadows that once concealed the ninja now preserve their memory. The historical ninja may have disappeared, but their influence continues to ripple through culture, imagination, and even practical fields, from martial arts to strategic thinking. They have achieved a different kind of immortality than the samurai who sought glory in honorable death. The ninja live on in the shadows of our collective imagination, still teaching lessons about adaptation, survival, and the power of the unseen. The complete story of the ninja that we've explored together reveals a tradition far richer and more complex than popular culture suggests. From the mountain ascetics who developed the early techniques to the government employees of the Edo period, from the democratic councils of Iga to the global entertainment phenomenon of today, the ninja have continuously transformed while maintaining certain core elements that define their tradition. They remind us that history is never simple, that cultures are always evolving, and that human ingenuity finds expression in countless ways.